How exactly did the left get so easily subverted into becoming the first string enforcers for global big pharma profits, for the elite and dystopian government? All right, welcome back. Another Renegade conversation. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit like. Would love for you to share these as we're building up this YouTube channel. Now, this is a really important conversation that I've wanted to start and I really want to explore and have with lots of different people. So please comment below your thoughts on this. So just so you know where I stand on the political spectrum, I would primarily describe myself as a libertarian. That's probably the best description for my political viewpoints. I just want government out of people's lives. I want government to be as small as possible, to do whatever it is that they're supposed to do efficiently, and just stay out of people's lives. My beliefs are very simple. This is what I stand on: freedom, justice, and equal opportunity and equal rights for all. That's what Canada really has been all about at its core. And that's what I believe as Canadians we need to stand up for and fight for. Now, what's really interesting to me is when we get down to values, and if you haven't watched my video on getting clear on your values, I encourage you to do that, because my argument is all about the fact that we as Canadians need to become loyal. We need to recenter ourselves in our values. We need to be loyal to our values first, not to political parties or political agendas. And what's happening in society right now is that the political agendas are vying for our loyalty, and we are giving that loyalty freely to these political agendas and parties and forgetting about what we truly value. The challenge right now is that we are in a time of crisis. And in a time of crisis, there's always a battle for control, and that battle is being waged in the information space. And so there are many different narratives that are competing for our loyalty and for our attention. Now, as a professional marketer, that's what I do for a living, it's fascinating to look at the marketing messages that have been crafted around this entire crisis, the pandemic crisis, and now the trucker convoy crisis. It's interesting to see how the narrative is formed, the words that are used, the psychological elements that are deployed and leveraged. So I've wanted to record a video on this topic for quite some time, but I didn't really know how to put it into words. And I wasn't really quite sure of how to express my thoughts. And then I came across this excellent essay by Kim Goldberg, and she essentially nailed it. She's done such an excellent job explaining this phenomenon that's really amazed me so much. She is a Green Party supporter, so it's written from her perspective. Now, this was written just at the end of last year, in December. This is a second part to the first part, so I'll leave a link to her previous essay as well, where she examined the dogmatic fervor of the left, endorsing draconian and discriminatory vaccine mandates and health passes, right? That's the whole thing. That's what boggles my mind, is how is the left standing behind a discriminatory mandate? How are you not standing up for the rights of minorities with minority beliefs? Like, that's what the left is supposed to be all about. A missing piece of my analysis was how the left became so singularly duped into forming the vanguard of this new authoritarianism. What mechanism could explain this? As a professional marketer, there are psychological techniques that we use to influence our prospects, our viewers, our visitors. And all marketers use these psychological principles. Marketing, persuasion, influence is all about understanding the human condition, the human mind, and understanding how to shape their perception and their narrative so that you can create a desire to purchase, to buy into your story, right? That's what we're doing when we're selling things through marketing. We're trying to influence and persuade our viewer to buy into our story. And that's exactly what a government or a corporation or any entity would do if they want you to buy into their story. Out of all possible political demographics, she says, the left, including Greens, so in Canada this would be the Liberals, the NDP, the Greens, would seem the least likely to embrace mandatory segregation, coerced medical procedures, my body, my choice, government surveillance, and the censoring of scientists. The left would seem the least likely to give pharmaceutical corporations, this is the elite that they were railing against, a free pass on multi-billion-dollar investigational experimental injections that are suspected in 9,476 deaths to date in the United States alone, according to the VAERS database. So you can look that up. This is not conspiracy, this is actual fact here. Now let's skip down a little bit further here. One would expect the left to lead the charge in a consumer protection crusade against a new and still experimental pharmaceutical product with a higher than expected body count. But instead, the left is leading the charge against those who decline to consume it. So it's not as if they're even, just being the cheerleaders. They're actually leading the charge against the people who are just saying, hey, can I just have a choice to not take this? Like, my body, my choice? Like, I'm not going to take your product to help your billion-dollar corporation make more profits without liability. I'm just going to choose not to take it. And somehow the left is like, no, you have to take their product. That corporation needs more profits to keep us safe. It boggles the mind, right? Here's the answer. How did this happen? And this comes down to the marketing, the messaging, and they nailed it perfectly. In the following video, I'm going to show you the marketing documents that outline this strategy. So what happened, she asks, how did the left get subverted into being the first-string enforcers for big pharma and dystopian government? One reason appears to be deliberate targeting of the left with pseudo-collectivist messaging. This is like the greenwashing and the whitewashing that corporations do all the time, and you environmentalists know all about this. This is exactly what the pharmaceutical companies are doing right now. So a fellow author commented on her previous essay, a Colorado attorney and wildlife conservationist, Aaron Van Diver, and this is what he said. The government big pharma public messaging about the virus seems to almost have been designed to appeal to the left-wing sense of empathy that green groups and other activists specialize in. Now, this is where activists, environmentalists, social justice warriors are the most vulnerable. And this is coming from a fellow environmentalist. In my early 20s, I was all about protecting the environment. I hated the lumber industry here in BC. I had fantasies of chaining myself up to logging trucks, okay? 100% environmentalist over here. We're environmentalists, we care about the planet, we care about other people because we have empathy. And this is how corporations manipulate us through advertising. How do I know this? Because I'm a marketer and I actually do this. I've been doing this for the past 14 years. We know how to craft our messaging to appeal to your deepest values so that we can then direct you. And this is exactly what has been done. To appeal to the left-wing sense of empathy that green groups and other activists specialize in. My mask protects you, your mask protects me. My shot protects you, your shot protects me. That speaks to our collectivism, that speaks to our empathy, right? Caring for others. I'm not doing this for myself, I'm doing it for everybody else. They knew that that messaging would be the most receptive, and they knew that the left would be the most receptive to these mandates because they knew the people on the right value individualism, and individualism says, no, I don't want your stupid shot. That's my right. So they knew that they weren't going to be able to get into that market, right? So they decided we're going to go after the left because we can get through their empathy to do exactly what we need them to do. This collectivist approach has been alluring to the left as it appears on the surface to offer a chance to undermine the excessive individualism and greed they have always railed against. Exactly. But now they've directed that against the wrong people. You remember the Occupy movement. We are the 99% against the 1% elite. That was against the big bankers. That was their enemy. What's happened now? Where have the big bankers and the corporations gone as the big enemy? All of a sudden, they've disappeared. Who has been replaced as the enemy? Oh, the individualists, the people that believe in freedom and individualism. They're so greedy and selfish. Notice, those are the words the left uses to insult those of us who simply want freedom of choice. What happened? Why aren't you fighting against the corporations and the big bankers, the elite, our true enemy? Unfortunately, they have failed to realize that this pseudo-empathetic approach actually empowers the greedy and exploitative systems, colonialism, that they are supposed to be against. This grants the evil, greedy corporations previously unfathomable authority over everyday life. How do you not realize that by supporting the mandates, you are the one that are literally granting those evil, greedy corporations you are so against unbelievable authority, unbelievable control, complete surveillance, digital surveillance. That's what this is about. And this is what I believe is what's going to wake up the people on the left. When we get into the digital surveillance systems, they're going to start, more and more of them are going to start to realize what this is really about. And they're going to start to realize that the greedy corporations and the elite are behind all of this because it has to do with control and authority. Here's the message to the left. The right finally sees it, guys. The right finally sees the elites for what they are. Think about this. With the Occupy Wall Street movement, you were railing against the banks and the greedy corporations, right? The environmentalists are railing against Monsanto for all the control and all those corporations that are poisoning our environment. The right never cared about those issues. Guess what? The right has now just finally woken up to see the elite, to see the greedy corporations as their enemy. They're not supporting the big banks anymore. We finally have an opportunity to unite. Right now, we're divided on this COVID issue because it was a health issue, and the marketing departments got at the empathy of the people on the left. But as soon as this continues down the path towards the Great Reset, the people on the left will wake up and realize who really is the enemy again. The greedy corporations, the 1%, the elite, the people at the WEF, the people meeting in Dallas, all of these government leaders, and the corporations that control and run this world. And this is why they need to continue to sow and create so much division and hatred between the left and the right. Because as long as we are fighting, we'll never be able to come together and fight against them. But their time is dwindling, and they know it. Let's continue down here. So this is a really interesting line. It talks about disarming the left because they knew that the left would be an issue, right? To whatever extent there were major players on national and global stages who from the outset wanted to steer COVID response in a vaccine-only direction, and we called that right at the beginning of this in 2020, including mandates, passports, and permanent digital ID cards. That's where all of this is moving to. Then clearly the first task is to disarm the left so it can't perform its traditional social function of resisting such illiberal developments. It goes against everything that the left stands for, skewing the messaging to not merely disarm the left, but to actually bring the left on board as an ardent proselyte in a Stockholm Syndrome manner is nothing short of brilliant. As a marketer, I speak for all of my marketing friends, I think, and please comment down below, we have been blown away by the genius of this marketing campaign. Kim, you couldn't have said it better. Had the message been, get vaccinated so you have a better chance of surviving COVID, that self-serving proposition would never have prevented the left from looking critically at these investigational injections or the lack of public data on them, or the futility of a vaccine-only approach with a non-sterilizing vaccine and a zoonotic virus, or the devastating public health impact of lockdowns. They've been detrimental. They've been killing children, literally. Suicide, mental health through the roof. Where is the left standing up for people? Or the Orwellian significance of a checkpoint society and potential social credit system. By strategically framing the campaign in pseudo-empathetic, pseudo-collectivist language, we're all in this together, a very different reality emerges. One in which the left goes from public watchdog to mindless robo-army in service to pharmaceutical corporations. And when they wake up, they're going to be pissed. Corporations that won't release their data for 75 years. That has changed because they lost that and they have to release it in the next 5 years, which is going to be really shocking for a lot of people. It's also worth noting that pre-existing green left dogma prioritizing kindness above all else, right? Be kind, you've heard that a million times now. This dogma essentially weaponizes kindness and then launches it at anyone or anything that might confound the simplicity of groupthink with complexity. Long before COVID struck, we were already being keel-hauled by kindness from Greens and the left. This practice expands quite naturally and aggressively into the official COVID messaging. So now it's unkind not to vaccinate. It's unkind not to take every booster offered. It's unkind not to mask everywhere, including outdoors or alone in your car. Unkind to call the Omicron head cold a head cold. It's a head cold, guys. Let's be honest. Talk to everyone who's had it. Unkind to scare people with the VAERS database. Unkind to even raise questions because doubt somehow drives variance. Wow, weaponizing kindness. I'd never thought of that until I read that. Interesting, powerful. Okay, so then she goes in talking about Matthias Desmet and mass formation. All totalitarian systems, according to Desmet, must be preceded by a collective psychological phenomenon called mass formation, also known as mass hypnosis.